Welcome back to Process Over Pressure, the show where we get the real story from the people who built something. The wins, the grind, and everything in between. Pressure usually shows up where a process quietly broke down. Today's guest has lived that on both sides of the table. My guest is Tad Hartlaub, co-founder and strategic lead at Medvance Marketing. Welcome back to Process Over Pressure, the show where we get the real story from the people who built something. The wins, the grind, and everything in between. I'm Chad Parris, founder of Stonefly Consulting Group, and my belief is simple. Pressure usually shows up where a process quietly broke down. Today's guest has lived that on both sides of the table. My guest is Tad Hartlaub, co-founder and strategic lead at Medvance Marketing. Welcome back to Process Over Pressure, the show where we get the real story from the people who built something. The wins, the grind, and everything in between. I'm Chad Parris, founder of Stonefly Consulting Group, and my belief is simple. Pressure usually shows up where a process quietly broke down. Today's guest has lived that on both sides of the table. My guest is Tad Hartlaub, co-founder and strategic lead at Medvance Marketing. Tad spent years in corporate med tech, in product development and marketing. He's got 8 patents to his name, 7 of them in medical devices, and he walked away from the corporate machine to build his own thing. Tad, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it, and glad to be here.
Yeah, really excited about having you on. And honestly, I'd love for you just to kind of take me back there. Give me, you were in the med world and devices and had a successful career. Now take me back to that pivotal switch where you went from corporate America to, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this on my own.
Okay. Well, I'd worked at Pfizer, McKesson on the dental side. I worked in Dentsply, Sirona, and these large corporate companies, and started to experience interactions with small incubator and startup companies. As a matter of fact, my first patent I got with 2 of my brothers who are physicians, and we actually invented a flexible shave biopsy device, basically a flexible scalpel, and really enjoyed that. Licensed it to the tech transfer group at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And so really lived that experience and saw how incubators and startups and new companies have sometimes challenges trying to get their technology out to the market. And so after about 22, 23 years in corporate, decided it was time to go ahead and live that experience more, to go ahead and bring the skills that I had learned to bear with upstarts and incubator companies.
That's fascinating. Somebody who not only, a lot of people on the marketing side, they've gone into companies or whatever, and they've done marketing on that side of it. But there are not many that's actually, as far as living it from the manufacturing side of creating something, knowing how to build that, and then turn around and see a need that, how do you market this, and how do you get it in the right hands, and how do you get it out there in the market? So you've kind of, honestly, when I talk to a lot of marketers, one of the things that's the hardest disconnect is really understanding the guts of manufacturing of something and being able to articulate that. And you've kind of lived both, so you kind of come with a little bit of an advantage, I'd say.
Yeah, and it exactly, Chad. And one of the biggest challenges with upstarts and incubator companies is usually these companies are started by biomedical engineers, engineering people, chemists, and so they usually really understand the science behind it. But 80% of medtech and biotech companies fail, not because of the technology is bad. Usually it's fantastic technology. It's being able to translate that, to commercialize it, and to be able to go ahead and bring it out to the marketplace, out to the healthcare community where it can start to be used. And that's really where we've designed Medvance Marketing, is to really focus on that, to be able to bridge that gap from medtech and biotech innovation into real world clinical adoption.
Yeah. I have, being a consultant, and it's similar. I mean, we're in different avenues, but you marketing, but when you're sitting on that side of it, one of the things that I have noticed, and I'm maybe more of a question here, is that there's a lot of really, really, really smart business owners who have built things, and a lot of them are more engineer brain or more around finding something that they want to invent and they do that. And I have seen this pattern where their brain works differently than someone who's on the creative side. And so, part of the building it, making sure it's nuts and bolts, it works, it does everything, is takes a certain type of mind and do that, right? Like I couldn't do that. But now the part that I think you and I are, and you maybe have a little bit of both, is the creative side of that. I think there's a lot of business owners that have struggled in that in between of I've got something really good, but how do I get it out in the market? Because it's totally a different thought process. It's a total different like it's just it sometimes it's hard to resonate. And I see that a lot in business owners.
Yes, and especially when you're in again, to the med tech space, because usually they're very focused on as you said, the nuts and bolts, the actual function of the product. And sometimes they lose the ability to be able to really see the value proposition to the clinical community, what we call basically the product or market fit analysis. Okay, you've got this great product, it's meeting a need, but how can that be translated and packaged and communicated to the healthcare environment, clinicians, and not only clinicians, but healthcare facilities? Because very often clinicians will love a product, but if it's not positioned correctly from a costing perspective, if the CMS and insurance codes aren't correct and all the regulatory piece, there can be challenges there to be able to get that adoption within the healthcare environment, the overarching healthcare environment, not just the clinician.
Yeah, that's it's like anything else. You got a great concept. It's only a great concept until people know it's there, and then once
Right.
people know it's there, and it's available. The rest is history. But you think about in this world how many people have created brilliant things, but just never was able to get it in the market because people didn't know about it. Like the marketing side of that is just was not very good. And I mean, it happens way more than a lot of people imagine.
And that's true with, like, in my corporate role, we were developing a technology. Actually, it was just being commercialized when I started at this company. And again, this was in my corporate career, but it was a device that, using a specific wavelength of light, was able to reduce the bacteria count in hospital ORs.
Yeah.
And it was a lighting system along with a sensor, and it was really neat. And they showed an 80 to 90% reduction in bacteria in the OR just overnight. So, of course, after a procedure, they wipe it down, but then this would continually kill that bacteria and avoid potential hospital acquired infections, which account for tens of thousands of deaths every year of patients. And so they developed it, but it was $30,000 per OR. And so if the average hospital, say, had 4 or 5 ORs, they're looking at $150,000 to implement this. Well, the C-suite, the executive suite at the hospital, was like, well, that's fine and dandy. It's great, but we still need to be able to get a new MRI machine, which is going to be $500,000, or we're going to need this. So it was the competing priorities. And so one of the things we did is we looked at it as realized that if we could get that into an operational budget, so basically a lease to own, to address that pain point where the clinicians and the hospital staff saw the value of the product, but were getting pushback from the C-suite in the facility, that we might be able to get more adoption. And so we came up with a licensing solution, or leasing, solution, where they were able to put a small amount down and make monthly payments, all within the operating budget of the OR, and not involve that C-suite. And so we saw the adoption go up because of that. So that wasn't really focusing on the technology. That was really understanding the pain points, the value proposition of the product, and being able to address and come up with a solution that would get better adoption.
Yeah, I mean that's strategy, right? And that's the part a lot of when I talk to business owners and I hear it, and I'm sure you do too. And the medical world is there's always great concept and sometimes the strategy. When I think about marketing or implementing to a company or any of those, it's the validity in the strategy or how you're going to accomplish that, right? There's 1,000 ways to get there. And I think you just elegantly explained to the listeners a very brilliant way of a solution that we all would agree. If anybody was talking, they would say, Well, that's going to cut down tens of thousands. I mean, it's going to pay for itself in a year because of the infections or people coming back or having to, possibly get sued or whatever. Like it's going to cut down on that. Like that's a no brainer, pays for itself.
Yeah.
But sometimes at the executive top, they're looking at P&Ls and data, board level decisions, and they're like, we got to spend so much. We got to either buy this or buy this. And it's not necessarily about the long play. It's about right then what you have. But your strategy was to go in and say, okay, we can make this inside an operational budget. Is it a win? Because I think everybody in the operating room would go like 100%, this is a great device. And that's a strategy, right? That's a strategy to get it in and sell. A lot of people miss that.
Yep. And it was really neat to be able to see that and to be able to work with the different parties involved to be able to go ahead and get that implemented. But yeah, it's critical. It's understanding again that pain point and what the challenge was, and then addressing that. That was more business focused, but it really tied in because then from a marketing perspective, really able to go ahead and lead with that approach as the sales staff was then going into these facilities, understanding the pain points and having a solution to address it.
What's the biggest challenge you say, like right now, when you're talking to companies, you're kind of helping them? Like, what's maybe one of the biggest, I guess, pushback you get or trouble areas that you're hearing from founders and owners that they're struggling with when it comes to the marketing side?
Yeah, I think a lot of it revolves around procurement, especially in the healthcare facilities. If they have a product, as I mentioned, like with the lighting system to kill the bacteria in the ORs, it was really, although it was the executive suite at the facility, it was really a procurement issue and competing priorities. So there again, understanding what those pain points are, understanding what the pain points could be from a regulatory standpoint, from all the different standpoints, and then being able to convey that and communicate that in impactful, engaging marketing communication pieces. So the website, emails, trade shows. One of the things we do at trade shows that we've done for clients is we do geotargeting. So we're able to target specific clinicians and or procurement specialists or purchasers at facilities, able to target them directly within a 1 block radius of a convention hall where an event is. And so to be able to go ahead and do that targeted approach, we're able to, number one, keep costs down for the medical device company, and then also able to go ahead and extremely targeted approach reach their customer base.
We are advancing daily in technology and what we're able to do. And, I talked to a lot of, business owners and in a lot of different spectrum, not just in marketing, but maybe they don't market, medical like you do. But I would say that the medical industry, if I had to guess, has been one of the most challenging to navigate of any, with all the lot of different regulations and just the cost, right? It's an expensive cost and how you navigate that. So you guys have to really be like just on top of it, right? I mean, have to be.
And make sure, because it's a highly regulated industry, the FDA. And so it's critical to be able to go ahead and understand the claims that you're making and that you have supporting documentation, that the company has supporting documentation. So anytime a client will come up with, hey, we'd like to use this approach, or we develop an approach, we have to make sure that it's going to, fit the regulatory piece, and that we've got supporting documentation to be able to substantiate any claims that we make. And that can be an issue. There are companies, I mean, the FDA can come in if you're making a claim that's not substantiated, or you're having any type of regulatory issues. The FDA can come in and shut down a company overnight. So it's real important to make sure that you're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's from a marketing perspective. So, and understanding that and the critical need of that and supporting documentation is something that we help a lot of our clients with too.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's a big part of it. So we talked about this a little bit kind of right in the beginning, and I just want to circle back because I think it's pretty impressive. You have 8 patents that you had, and I think you mentioned if I talked earlier, I think you and your brothers had some of these that y'all did together or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, that was my first one. Actually, I was in pre-med, and my brothers and I had come up with this. My one brother was an associate professor, just graduated medical school, and I got an associate professorship at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, and at the family practice program there. And so WARF, which is the tech transfer for the university, said, we'll go ahead and we'll take the technology and advance it. But we found it because my brothers were working with dermatologists, which is primarily the market for this product, and saw a need. And so we put our heads together, as brothers will often do, and came up with a solution, designed it, patented it, and then the first company, they ordered 50,000 of them and marketed it. And it's interesting, although it's changed a little bit, the design has changed a little bit. My wife went in for a procedure, and lo and behold, the dermatologist pulled out one of these devices. And so it was neat to actually see that in practice.
Is she like, hey, I know the guy who invented that?
She did. And the dermatologist was very interested and said, well, I'd like to see some more information about that. So it was, it was interesting. And then my other inventions also, patents were around kind of that same thing. It's amazing what you can learn if you sit back with a notepad and a pen and just watch clinical procedures, workflows. So if you have a product that is in a specific workflow in a hospital, to be able to see who touches it, how they use it, the challenges they have. Another one was a dental product, and it was around dental x-rays. And we saw a challenge as we were watching typically the dental assistant as they were doing the dental x-ray. And there were some challenges putting together different components to get a proper x-ray. And so we were able to see what that challenge was, verify it in multiple different dental practice visits, and then come up with a solution. And four of my patents are around a device to directly address that. Better x-rays, reduce risk of incorrect x-rays, and therefore better treatment options for the dentist, and then, better outcomes for the patient.
Yeah, it's amazing that, this is what's so great about the country and the world that we live in with so many brilliant people. And I think you said something that I think is so true is, and I honestly, in my own consulting world, I believe the same philosophy. I don't, when you really step back and you watch and you see problems, or I call them, not necessarily call them problems, but areas of improvement, let's say it that way, to be able to evaluate those and say, okay, I've seen this like multiple times now. What can be a solution to fix that? And that's kind of, what you're describing. You did that, and you said, here's a problem. They're having to use this and that, and to try to get it, it's not good. Like, how do we fix that? And it takes people like yourself and stuff to stop and go, all right, let's tweak this. So, you and your brothers, and I'm asking this kind of funny, like when y'all first started building these or doing that, did y'all do it like in the basement, or did y'all have like a garage, or where did you start?
Because it was a medical device and had to be done in a clean room, it was really designing prototypes that shouldn't be used. We would recommend they use it like on an orange or something so they could see how the product would work. But, and then put together a packet. A company was started to specifically try and commercialize this. And so we worked with them. And that's actually where the bug had bit for me as far as getting into marketing, product development in the medtech space, was working with that company. I was in pre-med, so I had the lightest course load of my brothers, and started spending maybe 5 or 10 hours a week helping them out. And I was just like, I love this. This is fantastic. So switched my major to business and haven't looked back. But it's interesting you brought up the challenges that come up and how that translates into marketing too. So like with a lot of our clients, it's understanding what that pain point and challenges at the facility, with the clinician, with all of the stakeholders that are involved, all the way up to the C-suite at the hospital, and ways that you can, put together marketing materials and really have a cohesive, simple message that conveys the strong value of their product to be able to get traction in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think there is such similarities. And I think when people are, again, it goes back to, I said earlier, I think, like in the business world, in the medical world, in any business structure, there's so much noise, right? There's always so much noise and so much expectation to get things accomplished tomorrow, that everybody seems to be like going a million miles an hour, rather than like hey, hold on a minute. Let's slow down. Let's figure out who we are, what this is, how we want to package it. What's the package look like? What is the how are we going to deliver this? What's going to be our game plan? Put together some game plans, have some trial and error in it where if this one doesn't work, we have this one, like we're doing some A/B testing and things like that. Like a real strategic mindset around how to launch something or even write the course or fix anything inside of a business takes some slowing down and understanding and uncovering some of the scars to figure out how we can make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And really understanding your customers, understanding their pain point, where that challenge is. And if you can address that issue, if you can communicate that your med tech or biotech solution addresses that, I think you can't help but win because especially in healthcare, they're looking for viable solutions that are, cost effective is always important, but not as important as being able to provide a better treatment options and better patient outcomes. I mean, that's what the healthcare community is screaming for. And if you can come up with a solution and properly communicate that through marketing campaign and a strategic marketing approach into the healthcare space, I think quite honestly, you can't help but be successful.
I agree. So you're today, you're is it year three that you're in with
Yes.
Medvance? Is it
Yep.
three or four?
Year three. Yep.
Okay. Now you got you don't have a big team, or you got a small team, but pretty efficient team, right? We got three.
Three, right. Well, there's three of us directors. I handle the strategic and then the business operations and have some support. And then Carissa Morin is our creative director, and she's responsible for all of the creative aspects, the websites, the marketing materials. And then on the digital side, we've got Kelsey Cuff, who is handles all of the digital side. So she does the emails, social media, and addresses all of the digital, including Google Analytics, Google Ads. So really, between the three of us, we realize that we really have a nice package to be able to provide a very
Yeah.
concierge approach to medtech and biotech companies that are startups and in incubators to be able to go ahead and really get some traction early out of the gate.
That's cool. So take me back. I mean, you're in year three. You remember that first day? What was it like?
It was very exciting, very exciting. I mean, we really felt, I've always been, the show Mad Men, right? You knew that what I liked about it was not the flawed characters, but the approach that they had to the marketing, which was really to understand that pain point, and it was neat. And I thought, wow, if you could take that kind of classic storytelling, that classic approach to marketing, and couple that with new technologies that are out there, analytics, you've got AI, you've got digital, and really bring those two together, that it could be very helpful to the med tech and biotech space.
Yeah. Have you, I'm sure it's kind of evolved from day one to what it is today. Always, owning a business, I would tell you, I have myself, there's always, you pivot and change and, what you think you're going to do in the beginning sometimes changes and fluctuates and your approaches change, right? They're not always like, you don't write in, I don't think anybody, maybe writes it in stone. This is what we're going to do. We're not looking back. We're not altering it one bit. Like that's not reality. You have to be willing to do that sometimes.
Yep. To pivot. And we did. We actually started primarily in the dental space. That was my most recent position. And so corporate position. So I had connections there and use those connections to go ahead and convey what our company was and how we could help. So we got some initial traction in the dental space. But one of the challenges with the dental space is that most dental is out of pocket. So probably 50 to 60% can be out of pocket. So the economy goes up, spending goes up on dentistry. Down, it goes down. So, and then my wife actually works at a university, a medical school, and they have an incubator there. And I started connecting with some of the people, and they said, "Wow, what we could use? You got a good understanding of med tech and biotech marketing, and a lot of our incubator companies and startups really don't understand that. They don't understand that skill set, and they desperately need it. Would you be willing to meet with some of them and help them out?" So we started doing that. And that's how we pivoted when we realized that this was really the space. And there's usually, to be honest with you, there's more funding on the medtech and biotech space for companies than there is in dental. So we realized there seemed to be more of a gap here, and they had the resources to be able to follow through on some strategic marketing campaigns and approaches. So we pivoted.
Well, and it gives you a chance, honestly, to be in the middle of the two things that you do love, the marketing side and how to get it out there, but also the creative side, because you're in these incubators and you're seeing what they're building, and you kind of start you get I'm sure you get a chance to understand what they're building, how they're doing it. So it kind of feeds that fun, creative, let me build it kind of spirit in you. And then as well as, hey, how do we now take it? And okay, y'all got it built, it's ready to go. Now give it to me and let's go put it out there. Like that's gotta be for you, like you've landed in the right spot.
Yeah, definitely feel that way. And and Chad, you're hitting it right on the head. There is a raw energy when you have a new product, an innovation, startup company. I mean, you think about Amazon and you think about companies like that and how exciting it was, but challenging initially for the founders. And so, really, to be involved in that and to be able to provide viable, cost effective solutions and approaches to be able to go ahead and move the technology forward and connect it, be that bridge to the clinical adoption is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing for me that I enjoy, and I think you and I probably will be aligned in this, is like seeing company entrepreneurs, business owners, seeing these incubators get something off the ground and start growing, having success. That's very rewarding for me. Like I love to see the smiles that they have because like some of the things that we help implement, they're starting to see them come and they're working and they're helping them. And at the end of the day, their company's growing. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that enough. But for me, that's one of the most rewarding things. Yes, we all work because we have to get paid, got bills. But that is really way more important to me to see that. I enjoy seeing that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like back to that bacteria killing light I had mentioned. I mean, to see the growth, the third year growth was up, I think it's about 160% to target. And that was all because of understanding the challenge with adoption at the healthcare facility, coming up with a program to be able to use the operational budget and to be able to see that get traction and grow. And at the end of the day, you're right. It's all about metrics. And the biggest metrics, you can look at clicks and forwards and likes and all of that. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to revenue and being able to, get your product out there, get it adopted, and to be able to see growth in revenue and adoption. And that's real exciting.
So this last part that I'd like to kind of let's talk about, and I'm going to preface it by because you and I had a little pre-conversation. One of the things that I loved about your story, and I want to make sure tell it on this show because I think a lot of businesses are missing this element, is you have a very big interest and personal relationship with the people that work with you, and y'all spend a lot of. I think you even said at the beginning of your day, y'all spend your day started talking about each other and what's going on in their life and all those things. And I thought that really resonated with me because I want to get into talking about AI. And so the reason I say that is I wanted to start by you're very much a personal person and human element. So before we get into AI, I just want to make sure I said that because I think we do the injustice to people that know, like the way you run your business. I think it's very important.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, with Carissa and Kelsey, we have our partners meeting every week, and the first thing we do is, okay, so what'd you do this weekend, or how are the kids doing, and talking about that because it really is, and that's what I like about healthcare, medtech, and biotech is these are solutions that are making people's lives better. So it's a very personal story. It's a very personal experience as these technologies are advanced. It's not just, like with the bacteria killing light again. I mean, it wasn't just a pet rock. It was something that had real impact, that it was saving lives. And that's to me and to us, I think that elevates what we're doing and brings clarity to why we need to work together to understand each other, support each other, so we can get these products out to market.
Yeah, I mean it's a leadership. It's a pillar of leadership to understand your people and to be able because everybody learns different. Everybody is inspired differently. And so when you as a leader understand how to communicate with people and how to motivate people, it sure makes the job easier than not understanding. Uh, so AI, is a man. It's like yeah, it feels like every time you turn the TV on, it's in the news or they're talking about this Fable 5 was out, and then they canned it, and there's a lot of talk about AI. It's all over the place. There's AI data center going up everywhere. AI is in my business. I use AI. Use AI with my customers, and I have my belief on that. On the medical side, are you guys seeing some of the AI tools being implemented and used today?
Yes. Yep. And we ourselves, like you said, Chad, for that you use them. We use some AI tools also. But
Yeah.
AI is good, I think, really at truncating the research and the options investigation. So it's looking at what type of things are out there, what are possible solutions, and then looking at those. And then you really need the breadth of knowledge in the industry, like my 20 plus years in med tech, to be able to go ahead and look at what's going to work, what's not going to work. It's that personal touch, as we had talked about. So AI can never replicate that completely, but it can certainly be a good resource to be able to look at a large swath of data and to be able to provide potential options. Then the human aspect has to come in and look at what's feasible, what's within budget, and all those other aspects.
Yeah, I always, when I have the AI conversation, and it's amazing at how many marketing firms, PR firms, consulting firms, everybody is using AI, and there's I think there's a fine line between using it the right way and just overusing it, and I always say that because I get asked this all the time, and I'm sure you do too. Well, okay, we want to do a marketing campaign now. We'll just pull it into these AI tools and let it go do this thing. I mean, you fight against that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you hear, yeah, it's $199 to do it, and I'll just let it go do this thing, right? I mean, you see that,
Oh, yeah.
and I always tell people, you certainly can do that. Absolutely, you can do that, and it's there. And by all means, if that's the budget you have, then I highly recommend you to do that. That's okay. You just have to know what you're getting. And the problem is that there's so much AI tools out there. If you don't understand how to use them and how to use them to your advantage, because you got to think about using that tool as a leverage to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. If you're letting the tool run how you do business, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's more advantage edge is what you're trying to do with that, rather than looking at it like, well, this is going to solve everything, because it may not. It may not solve. I use this example. If you have a terrible sales process and they don't know what they're doing, putting an AI tool is not going to fix the sales process. It's still broken. In that case, once you fix the process, then you can put the AI tool in it and help with the workflow. That is absolutely you can do. But it's a broad misconception out there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would agree. And your analogy of the sales is exactly it. I look at AI as just another tool to use, and I think it allows you to get from A to B usually a little bit quicker and affords you more options to be able to get to B. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's assessing budgets, skill sets within the med tech or biotech company, what their solution is and how it addresses. Because remember, AI is only as good as the information that's out there. And a lot of the technologies that are being developed are new. And so there's not much from an AI perspective out there also. So that is one challenge that we have too, is that, there's just not a lot around specific spheres of technology that are being developed by the med tech and biotech companies because they're new. And so, they're starting to bring that to the forefront, and maybe in 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that AI will be more robust and more accurate with the information. But right now, it just kind of provides some different options to evaluate and then apply to the new technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I work with people in the medical world, and I work with law firms, and those two are always the most interested, because there's two governing bodies over both of those, right? I mean, you lawyer personal information, personal stuff like that, and getting it out there is obviously a no-no. But then you have HIPAA and all the rules and regulations around the medical side. And so those are typically the two fear points for either side. And so you're right. They're still developing and they're still doing that. And there's a real fear of how does this work in that and not, break HIPAA. And there's a fine line. And it's still being, I guess, courted to figure out how to work in that.
Yeah. And I think that's where the strategic focus comes in and understanding, okay, what's the
Ex-
long-term goal? What is your long-term goal for the company? And then being able to understand the iterative steps along the way and incorporate all the tools that are available. Key opinion leaders in that particular healthcare field, bringing them in, publish papers and articles, evidence based, and AI and competitive analysis, and looking at all these different tools. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the strategy needs to be developed by somebody who has that experience and has developed a deep understanding of the pain points and the value proposition of that particular product to properly convey it in the marketplace and to grow the business.
That's it. I couldn't agree with you 100%. And I think that's the right approach. I think that's the smart approach. I think it's the safest approach. And when you're looking at these different, AI tools and you're looking at that, whether you're, if like your case with an incubator that's trying to release something, having a Medvance that knows where to use it, but also has that real human element that can say, listen, you don't need that. That's the wrong path to go. Because that's the expertise that you bring. That's why you do a relationship with that rather than just going to say, hey, I'm just going to buy this tool and bolt it on. No, help me understand where it flows with inside of what I'm trying to do. Because there's so many options, and a lot of them are very similar options. Like you may have, this one tool does this thing, but there's 9 of them out there that does the same thing, just a little bit different. And when you're trying to, keep that human understanding and element, because, let me use it this way. I say to people all the time. So if I had one doing an SEO for me and it was doing all that, well, everybody has an AI SEO tool now. So it's all writing the same SEO for everybody. That human element to take what it writes and say, okay, this is wrong, let me implement the human part to it, is what's going to make it stand out. Just
Exactly.
having go click and switch is not going to work. And that's the same thing with bigger scale, what you're talking about. And what I believe too is that it's a great tool, but it's a baseline for you to be able to go in and add real human experience, personal touch, how to make it implement into there where it's authentic.
Yeah. And then, as you said, the implementation of it too. Okay, so you've come up with this great plan. Now you have to implement it. And that, unfortunately, implementation is still very labor intensive. It requires people to engage, to be able to look at different things. And so the strategy often can be helped with AI as a tool and somewhat the implementation, but the majority of the implementation still needs to be done, feet on the ground.
Yeah, agreed. Well, listen, what a great conversation we have. We're up against our time. If someone's out there and they have a medical patent that they're sitting here ready to go and they're having a time, they need to know, man, how do I get this out there? How can they get in touch with you?
They can visit us on our website, which is Medvance Marketing, all one word.com. And just check out our website. There's a contact form there to reach out to us. Or I'm on LinkedIn, Tad Hartlaub. Feel free to reach out to me through there. Medvance is also on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us through there and Facebook also. So
Fantastic. Well, Tad, thank you again for sharing your journey. I think it's been a great conversation. I hope people out there will watch my podcast and subscribe to it, and we'll have this content out in a few weeks. And excited about this one to drop. What a great conversation. Thank you very much for being on today.
Well, thank you, Chad. I greatly enjoyed it also, and I look forward to seeing the podcast get out there and your podcast grow.
Thank you so much. Well, as always, Chad Ferris, Stonefly Consulting Group. This is Process Over Pressure. See you next time.